Part 1: The Battle You Didn't Know You Were Born Into. It begins the moment you open your eyes, not just in the morning, but in this lifetime. From the very first breath, you're dropped into a world that's already at war. You don't see it at first because the battlefield isn't physical. It's energetic. It's vibrational. It's woven into the invisible architecture of your thoughts, your emotions, and your environment. This isn't a war of bombs and bullets. It's a war of frequency. And right now, whether you know it or not, you are standing in the middle of the most ancient and ongoing conflict in the universe, in the hidden war between 3D demons and 5D souls. You may think this sounds like spiritual fantasy, but listen with the inner ear. Feel what your body remembers. Because your soul didn't come here by accident. You didn't stumble into Earth. You were summoned here. And you were summoned because the war has reached a tipping point. The 3D realm, which we call physical reality, is saturated with dense energies: fear, control, division, and survival. These are not just cultural patterns. They are entities, forces, conscious frequencies that feed off low vibration and reproduce through human behavior. They are what we call 3D demons, not cartoon villains, but energetic intelligences that survive by keeping you asleep. The 3D demon doesn't need to possess your body. It only needs to hijack your choices. It infiltrates your mind through fear-based narratives, scarcity programming, and emotional trauma loops. You think you're just anxious or angry or exhausted, but what if those emotions are echoes of an invisible parasite feeding through you? What if your addiction to drama, your chronic doubt, your inability to love yourself are not flaws but symptoms of spiritual interference? That's the hidden nature of this war. It's not fought with force. It's fought with frequency. And the battlefield is your consciousness.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Now, some of you may ask, if I'm a 5D soul, why am I even here? Because you volunteered. You chose this incarnation. You knew the risk. You knew the density. But you also knew your power. The 5D soul operates from unity, love, peace, clarity, and truth. It doesn't need to fight the 3D demon directly because it doesn't operate on the same wavelength. But here's the hard part. To win this war, the 5D soul must enter the 3D matrix without forgetting who it is. And that's the real danger: forgetting. Because forgetting is the first victory of the 3D demon. Every time you conform to the illusion of separation, every time you betray your intuition to please others, every time you doubt your worth in order to fit in, you lose a piece of your frequency. And that loss becomes an opening. You don't need to be evil to be influenced. You just need to be unaware. And right now, most of the world is unaware, sleepwalking through programmed realities, forming identities that were never theirs, defending beliefs they never questioned. That's not free will. That's possession disguised as personality. So how do we begin to see this war clearly? We must first recognize the weapons. The 3D demon uses fear to freeze you. It uses shame to shrink you. It uses distraction to divide you. You think you're choosing comfort when you scroll for hours, binge meaningless content, or stay in toxic relationships, but what you're really choosing is disempowerment. The demon doesn't just show up in nightmares. It shows up in your Netflix queue, your news feed, your inner critic. This war is not sensational. It's subtle, and that's what makes it so dangerous. The 5D soul, however, comes armed with light technologies that the 3D realm has no defense against. Radical presence, deep listening, authentic expression, intuitive knowing. These aren't spiritual luxuries, they are weapons of mass liberation. When you meditate, pray, breathe consciously, or speak your truth, you're not just healing yourself. You're shifting the frequency of the battlefield. You're weakening the infrastructure of the 3D illusion. You're reminding the world of a frequency it forgot, and that remembrance is what the demons fear most. Because 5D souls don't win through force. We win through remembrance. When you remember who you are, the illusion begins to glitch. The matrix begins to crack. The parasite begins to starve. Because your vibration becomes incompatible with its survival. That's why the attacks increase when you begin to awaken. That's why everything seems to fall apart when you start healing. It's not punishment, it's resistance. The system is reacting to your frequency shift. You're becoming visible to the other side, and they know what you're capable of. Let me ask you something deeply personal. When was the last time you made a decision purely from your soul, without fear, without compromise, without needing anyone's approval? That decision, that clarity, that embodiment is what makes you a threat in this war. Because the 3D demons don't fear love as a concept. They fear love as a frequency, as a choice, or as a way of being. Because when love becomes your vibration, you stop being programmable. You stop being susceptible to fear, and you start becoming sovereign. Sovereignty is the ultimate form of resistance. It means you no longer outsource your truth. You no longer need validation to feel safe. You no longer trade your authenticity for belonging. And the moment you become sovereign, the 5D architecture begins to anchor through you. Your body becomes a temple. Your energy becomes a portal. Your life becomes a transmission. And everywhere you go, you disrupt the 3D matrix, not by preaching, but by being. But make no mistake, sovereignty is not easy. It will cost you everything that was built on illusion. Relationships, careers, identities, all of it may begin to fall away. Because the 3D realm is not compatible with 5D frequency. And that incompatibility creates a spiritual shedding, a sacred unraveling. And in that unraveling, you will be tempted to return to the comfort of conformity. But don't. That's the trap. That's the moment the war is most intense, when you're about to break through, and the system tries to pull you back. You must learn to hold your light, even when everything around you is dark. You must learn to trust your vibration, even when your mind is full of questions. You must learn to stand in your sovereignty, even when you're standing alone. Because the war is not won by the loudest. It's won by the clearest. And clarity is a frequency that cannot be faked. You either are who you say you are, or you're food for the system. This is why the 5D journey is not about escaping the 3D world. It's about recalibrating it from the inside out. You're not here to transcend Earth. You're here to infuse Earth with a new frequency. And that infusion requires embodiment, not spiritual bypassing, not performance, embodiment. Living your truth in the grocery store, in your family, in your finances, in your most mundane moments. because that's where the war is fought, not in temples or retreats, but in everyday decisions. So let me ask you again, what vibration are you choosing today? Not what you say you believe, but what you're actually living. What thoughts are you feeding? What emotions are you recycling? What truths are you embodying? Because every choice is a frequency, and every frequency is a signal in this war. Are you signaling fear or freedom? Conformity or clarity? Victimhood or vision? You may not see the full scope of this war with your physical eyes, but your soul knows. It feels the pressure. It hears the call, and it remembers why you came. You didn't come here to survive. You came here to awaken. You came here to anchor. You came here to transmit. And now, in this moment, in this lifetime, you are being asked to remember. Because the war is real. The forces are active. And your frequency is the deciding factor. Part 2. How energetic warfare happens without you noticing. There is a reason why so many feel stuck, heavy, or lost even after years of inner work. It's not because they're weak. It's not because they failed. It's because they're under spiritual siege without realizing it. The war between 3D demons and 5D souls is not always dramatic. It's not always obvious. Often it's silent, subtle. It looks like procrastination. It feels like numbness. It shows up in the moments when you know what to do, but can't bring yourself to do it. That's not laziness. That's energetic interference. 3D demons are experts of subtle sabotage. They don't need to possess you. They just need to distract you. If they can keep you entertained, emotionally triggered, or mentally scattered, they've already won. Because you cannot anchor 5D frequency in a fragmented system, and fragmentation is their primary tactic. They split your attention. They scatter your will. They loop you in unresolved emotional patterns until you begin to think your power is gone, when in truth, it's just been dispersed. One of the most dangerous weapons in this war is the illusion of normalcy. The idea that everything is fine, that there's nothing wrong, that you're just in a phase. But what if that phase is actually a frequency trap? What if your chronic overthinking, your emotional numbness, your constant seeking are not personality flaws, but indicators that you're vibrating in a field that doesn't belong to you? This is the subtle war. The one that doesn't announce itself with fear but buries you in comfort. And comfort, when used as sedation, is a form of spiritual anesthesia. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you felt completely clear, fully present, and deeply alive without needing stimulation, validation, or escape? That clarity is your natural 5D state. But very few are living in it consistently. Why? Because clarity is a threat to the 3D system. When you are clear, you can no longer be manipulated. You can no longer be sold fear, shame, or inadequacy. You become energetically sovereign. And that sovereignty is what the 3D demons are trying to prevent at all costs. Let's talk about energy cords. Every interaction, every conversation, every emotional entanglement creates a cord, a channel of energy. Some are beautiful. They uplift, they nourish, but others are parasitic. They drain, they distort, they tether you to people and places that are no longer aligned. And if you don't clear these cords, you remain energetically accessible to 3D attachments, even if you physically moved on. That's why you still dream about your ex. That's why you still feel heavy when you think of your past job or childhood home. The war is not just external, it's interdimensional tethering. One of the biggest lies that feeds 3D demons is the belief that you must heal everything before you can rise. This keeps you looping in self-fixation, constantly analyzing, constantly digging, constantly feeling broken. But here's the truth. You don't need to be fully healed to be fully aligned. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. Healing is not a prerequisite for sovereignty, alignment is. When you align your actions with your soul, even your wounds become weapons of light. Even your scars become symbols of remembrance. The 3D realm wants you to keep doubting. It wants you to keep waiting. It wants you to stay in preparation mode forever. Because as long as you're preparing, you're not embodying. And embodiment is what collapses 3D timelines. When you walk into a room fully in your light, fully in your truth, fully in your frequency, you shift the field. Not by force, but by presence. Presence is a portal. And demons cannot dwell in a present field. They are time-bound. They live in past loops and future anxieties. They cannot exist in now. The moment you drop fully into now, this breath, this body, this truth, you become untouchable. Not because you're invincible, but because you're undistracted. Your energy is no longer leaking into illusion. Your field becomes tight, sealed, clear. And that clarity becomes a repellent to all distortion. You don't have to cast anything out. You don't have to fight anyone. You just have to become coherent. Coherence is the death of confusion. And confusion is the lifeblood of demonic systems. Let's look at another tactic, inversion. Inversion is when the 3D system flips truth upside down. It teaches you that love is weakness, that vulnerability is foolish, that power is selfish, that intuition is irrational. And we accept these lies because they come wrapped in socially acceptable packaging. But every time you believe an inverted truth, your vibration distorts. Not because you are unspiritual, but because you are entrained into illusion. And that entrainment creates resonance with 3D fields. The war, again, is not just external, it's ideological possession. To free yourself, you must become radically discerning, not paranoid discerning. This means questioning everything, every belief, every system, every habitual response. Is this mine? Does this serve my soul? Or is this a program I adopted to survive in a world built on fear? That level of inquiry is not comfortable, but it's necessary, because the 3D demons aren't afraid of seekers. They're afraid of rememberers, those who no longer seek truth because they are truth. This war is not about destroying the 3D realm. It's about transmuting it. You are not here to escape the body, the earth, or human experience. You are here to infuse them with soul, to bring 5D wisdom into 3D form, to spiritualize the mundane, to alchemize the ordinary. That is the revolution, not to leave Earth, but to recode it. And you do that by bringing your frequency into every part of your life. Not just your meditation mat, your relationships, your finances, your food, your choices, all of it. The 5D soul wins not by ascending, but by descending fully, courageously, authentically into the body, into the world, into the now. This descent is what terrified the 3D demons. Because when a soul fully incarnates, it becomes fully effective. It can't be manipulated. It can't be baited. It can't be hijacked, because it's home. And when you are home in yourself, nothing can own you. So what's the practical path forward? First, detox your field, not just physically, but energetically. Clean your environment, clear your digital space, cut cords, release dead weight. Second, rebuild your coherence through breath, through movement, through silence, through truth. Third, realign your life. Make your values visible in your choices. Make your soul undeniable in your presence. Let your life prove your frequency. Don't wait for the world to shift before you rise. Rise, and the world will respond. Because the war is not won outside. It's won in your vibration. Every time you choose love over fear, clarity over confusion, truth over performance, you win. Not just for yourself, but for the whole grid. Because we're not isolated beings. We're nodes in a living network. What you shift in you ripples through the entire field. So I ask you now, what are you still tolerating that keeps you in 3D bondage? What distractions are keeping you from full embodiment? What illusions are you still calling truth because they feel safe? And are you finally ready to stop playing small and start living like the multidimensional being you are? Because the war is real. The cost is high. But the victory is inevitable if you embody your frequency. Part 3. Transcend the battlefield. Anchor the new grid. There comes a moment in every 5D soul's journey when the war no longer feels like something happening out there. It becomes personal, tangible. Not because the world got darker, but because you got brighter. And the brighter you become, the more you illuminate what's been moving in the shadows all along. You begin to see the invisible architecture, how thoughts aren't always yours, how emotions can be implanted, how your choices ripple through dimensions. You stop asking why me, and start asking why now. Because you feel that something is shifting, something massive, and you were sent here to be part of it. The final stage of this war is not about escape. It's about anchoring. You came here not just to survive the war between 3D demons and 5D souls, you came here to end it. Not by defeating darkness, but by making it obsolete. By raising the frequency of your life so fully, so unapologetically, that any entity, pattern, or program not aligned with truth simply cannot resonate with you anymore. That is frequency warfare at its highest level, not destruction, but dissolution through sovereignty. Let's be clear, 3D demons cannot exist without your participation. They require your belief in lack. They require your investment in fear. They require your agreement with separation. And when you withdraw your energy from those agreements, they weaken. When you stop feeding the loop collapses. When you stop identifying with the story rewrites itself. This is not spiritual theory. This is energetic law. You are the tuning fork. You are the broadcaster. And the realm you live in is the one you're tuned to. But here's the final trick the 3D realm uses. It convinces you that your vibration doesn't matter. that your choices are insignificant, that your light is too small to make a difference. That's the last weapon. Discouragement, apathy, the slow erosion of belief in your own impact. But let me tell you something that your soul already knows. If your vibration didn't matter, the system wouldn't spend so much effort trying to keep you distracted. If your light wasn't powerful, you wouldn't be under attack. You are targeted because you are potent. You're not just waking up for yourself. You're waking up for the grid, for the collective, for the planetary field. Every 5D soul that remembers, reclaims, and realigns anchors a new frequency into Earth. And when enough of us do that, the war ends not with an explosion, but with a shift, or a dimensional leap. A collapse of the old architecture because it no longer has energetic support. That's why you're here, not to preach, not to convert, but to become the new template. So what does this look like in daily life? It looks like choosing presence when the world demands speed. It looks like choosing truth when everyone else is performing. It looks like choosing love when fear is trending. It looks like holding your vibration steady in the face of chaos. Not because you're trying to be a hero, but because you remember who you are. You remember the assignment. You remember that your frequency is the mission. This is why many of you feel so alone, so misunderstood, so out of place. It's not because something is wrong. It's because your soul arrived early to build the new grid before the majority even knew there was a shift happening. You're not crazy. You're coded. You're not lost. You're activated. And the moment you stop trying to fit into the dying world, you begin building the one you actually came for. But anchoring 5D isn't just about energy. It's about embodiment. It means recalibrating your nervous system to hold more light. It means caring for your body like it's a sacred vessel, because it is. It means having hard conversations, making aligned decisions, releasing what no longer matches your frequency, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Because the pain of misalignment is far greater than the grief of letting go. You must become ruthless with your energy. Not in a cold way, in a clear way. You don't owe your frequency to anyone. You don't have to explain your awakening. You don't need permission to evolve. You only need devotion to your truth. And that devotion becomes your protection, your compass, your signal. It tells the universe and the unseen realms this soul cannot be hijacked. This field is sealed. This being is home. Let's talk about the final phase of this war, transcendence. Transcendence is not about floating above life. It's about remembering that your soul is multidimensional. You're here in the body, yes, but you are also operating in higher realms simultaneously. The 5D soul is not limited to human logic. It receives downloads. It senses timelines. It alters reality through intention. And the more you trust this, the more you begin to live from it. You stop reacting from your wounds and start creating from your field. And that creation becomes a portal for others to rise through. You begin to see people not as enemies or allies, but as frequencies. You begin to respond to life not from habit, but from alignment. You begin to move, speak, eat, and choose from your center. And that center becomes unshakable. Not because you control everything, but because you are anchored in everything. You are the storm and the stillness, the fire and the silence, the soul and the system fused into one. So here is the ultimate question. Are you willing to live as if your vibration is the most powerful force in your reality? Are you willing to wake up every morning and choose your frequency like your life and the world depends on it? Because it does. And no, the war isn't over, but it's shifting. Every day, souls are waking up. Every day, the grid strengthens. Every day, the old matrix unravels not because we're fighting harder, but because we're vibrating higher. And soon, very soon, the tipping point will come. The old system will collapse under the weight of its own distortion. And a new earth will rise not from politics or revolution, but from frequency. So hold the line, anchor the light, speak the truth, embody the soul, and never forget you were born for this. You are not a casualty of this war. You are the key to its end.